Hi, and welcome to everyone joining from around the world to the 25th anniversary of the Conrad N. Hilton Humanitarian Prize ceremony. I'm Soledad O'Brien, and I am thrilled to be with you today. It's an honor to be part of an organization that does what I've tried to do my whole journalistic career: bring attention to those who are making real and tangible and positive change in the world, anywhere in the world, to educate and inspire all of us who can learn from them. Our 2020 prize recipient, Homeboy Industries, is an excellent example of a great mission, executed effectively at a grassroots level with so many implications for people around the world. The number and severity of humanitarian crises are growing around the world. Today, 168 million people need humanitarian assistance and protection. This represents about 1 in every 45 people. We live in a world where more people are displaced from their homes than at any time since World War II, with many more displacements expected as the climate changes and migration, conflict, and the pandemic force people from their homes. Each individual, each person represented by these statistics matters. And as this pandemic has shown us, not to mention the wildfires on the West Coast, humanitarian crisis knows no border. It affects all of us. That's why a moment like this, where we can bring together inspirational leaders, including people with their own personal experiences in dealing with these challenges, is so important. We have to find ways to build our future together to ensure the humanitarian system of today reflects the challenges of today and truly serves those who need it most. While COVID-19 prevents us from having these conversations in person, obviously, I am thrilled to work with the Conrad N. Hilton Foundation to bring the symposium to you virtually. The Hilton Humanitarian Prize was started in 1996 as a tribute to Conrad N. Hilton's lifetime of international humanitarian efforts, and is presented to a nonprofit organization judged to have made exemplary and extraordinary contributions toward alleviating human suffering. On this, the 25th anniversary of this award, the Hilton Foundation is awarding its largest prize ever, $2.5 million. The Hilton Foundation was established by Conrad Hilton in 1944 and provides funds to nonprofit organizations working to improve the lives of individuals who are living in poverty and experiencing disadvantage throughout the world. Today, program areas include supporting Catholic sisters in their vitality and work as agents of change in human development, disaster preparedness, relief, and long-term recovery, supporting youth in foster care to become self-sufficient and thriving adults, cultivating successful career pathways to transform the lives of young people who are often left out of the workforce, accelerating the coverage of reliable access to safe and affordable water services and health facilities and homes and schools in the global South, improving developmental outcomes for kids in their first 1,000 days of life, and ending chronic homelessness in Los Angeles. Today, we're going to hear directly from the folks who work at the organization that's receiving the 2020 Hilton Humanitarian Prize, Homeboy Industries, the largest gang rehabilitation and re-entry program in the world. It was started in 1988 as a way of improving the lives of former gang members in East LA, and now their work is a blueprint for more than 300 organizations and social enterprises around the world, the global Homeboy Network. They provide services like education and workforce development and solar power training and substance abuse support for mental health, tattoo removal, and they have a number of social enterprises, and it all started with a single bakery. Today they have 9 different enterprises which provide training grounds for clients as well as revenue to support the mission. But before we get to any of that, I want to first ask Steve Hilton, the chair of the Hilton Foundation Board, to join us and share a bit more about this award on this very special occasion.
Thank you, Soledad, and welcome to the 2020 Conrad N. Hilton Humanitarian Prize. This is our 25th prize event, which is exciting since I've been to all 25 and even before, when it was still a dream for the Hilton Foundation. So here we are in a different reality, obviously, a virtual reality, but nonetheless a special day for us. You know, as I was thinking about this year's winner, Homeboy Industries, it reminded me of a part of my grandfather Conrad Hilton's last will. And I would like to add that the wording is from a different era. You know, this was written probably, I don't know, many years ago. But I think the message in it is still valid today. So if I can share this with you. And that section of the will says, "Love one another, for that is the whole law. So our fellow men deserve to be loved and encouraged. The practice of charity will bind us, will bind all of us in one great brotherhood." And as I thought about Father Greg Boyle, who as you know, the founder of Homeboy Industries, it just resonated so much that the power of his soul, his spirit, his love. So I was ecstatic when I heard that Homeboy Industries is the winner this year. It's in our backyard in Los Angeles. And even though the Hilton Foundation, we do work all over the planet, a lot of work in Africa, remote villages, and yet, right here, Los Angeles, there's great needs. And to have a success story like Homeboy Industries right here is really special. And you know, I just want to give a shout out to Homeboy Industries and just congratulate them. And it's not just Father Boyle, obviously, it's really the entire staff, the team, and obviously many are former gang members, so they come at it from a whole different point of view. They understand, you know, what they're talking about. So congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Up next, I want to invite a few other members of the foundation to share their thoughts. President and CEO Peter Lawhorn, Vice President Communications and Partnerships Marshall Stoll, and Senior Director Hilton Humanitarian Prize Maggie Miller. Please join us.
Maggie, as the director of the prize, it's its 25th year. What have you seen over these past 25 years? What are some of the bigger achievements?
It is the 25th anniversary of the prize, and I think what I tend to focus on is the achievement of our 25 prize laureates over the years. We have an organization who has come up with oral rehydration solution. We have one who's built a world-class school in one of the largest slums in Africa. Of course, Kennedy Odede, who started his organization Shafco with 20 cents, a soccer ball, a dream to change his community, and the brilliance to do it. So before COVID-19 hit, the foundation made the decision that in celebration of the 25th anniversary of the prize, rather than host a larger celebratory event, that the foundation would actually provide unrestricted funding to all of our previous prize laureates to really recognize their exceptional work on the ground and to encourage more of it.
And Peter, as CEO, you've met leadership of some of these laureate organizations who have won in the past. Very different organizations, but is there a common thread between the leaders that you've found?
You know, Marshall, the thing that always strikes me is that each of these organizations has done something, accomplished something that nobody else thought was possible. A phrase I like to use is that they make the ambitious feasible. They take an idea that maybe some of us will think, is there a solution for this? And they say, well, yes, this is how you do it. This is our experience. Here's the roadblock we ran into, and here's how we got over it.
And you know, people may know about the prize, or they may know about the foundation. They might not have connected the two. In your mind, how does the prize and the foundation's work programmatically connect, or are there values the organization has that underpin both?
Well, entirely. Starting first with the values, right? Among the foundation's value set, I think there is one combination that really speaks to what the prize is about, and that is the combination of thinking big and humility. Now, none of these laureates would have gotten where they did if they were just simply trying to help a few people. But they thought, here's a big problem and here is a big solution to it. So just like Conrad Hilton, who said think big, act big, dream big, prize laureates do exactly that. But at the same time, I think their big thinking is tempered by humility, because they know that in their work, it's really about how individual people are helped and bettered. And I think there's no better exemplar of that than Homeboy, in the way that it looks people in the eye and says, we know you have been through a real difficult situation. You've probably done some things you wish you hadn't done. And we know there are plenty of people who won't even look at you, but we will. We will help you, and you will be able to help others.
So Maggie, Peter had mentioned thinking big and ambition, and in your mind, what is the significance of the prize? And in your time in the foundation, what are the changes that you've seen over the past 10 years?
The beauty of the prize is really in recognizing exceptional humanitarian work. And I think over the years, sometimes the jury has recognized organizations working on issues sort of the moment, and other times they've done quite the opposite and recognized organizations working on issues that aren't receiving the attention that they need. This year, I think the jury recognized in Homeboy certainly their exceptional program model and impact, but more than that, it's the community of compassion and tenderness that they create that really is changing people's lives and stopping intergenerational violence in its tracks. And that's, of course, just our most recent prize laureate. But other years it has gone to organizations working on torture or women survivors of war, cleft palate, mental health. And so I think the beauty of the prize is really the flexibility that the jury has to look at exceptional humanitarian work and recognize the organizations that have something to teach the world.
And Peter, building on that, what imprint on the world would you like the prize and the foundation's work to have?
If you look at the century that we're in, we're 20 years into it, we got 80 to go. This is going to be a hard century. We've seen that already in terms of expanding refugee population, in terms of climate, and now in terms of a global public health crisis. This is going to be a century of dislocation. And our institutions, our humanitarian system, needs to be able to respond to that. We've got a humanitarian system now that is big and that has plenty of people pushing within it, but it was built 70 years ago. It wasn't built for the problems of today. Hilton Foundation would like to be involved in the upgrading, renewing, revitalization of that system, and particularly within the areas of refugees, water, and young children.
You touched on something which for me is fascinating. I have a international development background, in that artificial distinction between humanitarian aid and foreign aid that governments have built over time. When there is climate, migration, things are blending more, but those two structures are still too separate. And I think that's one of the things that could be interesting, is the integration of foreign aid and humanitarian relief in a more consistent fashion.
Absolutely. These two are very closely related. In fact, they're really different phases of the same process. If you were living in New Orleans after Katrina or in any disaster situation elsewhere in the world, you would see that's an acute moment, but it's in a context of a whole cycle of development or inequity. And I think we need to be able to come back and forth between those, respond as necessary. But the term humanitarian sometimes is taken to mean only about acute moments of distress. It means much more. It means being concerned about the well-being of humans, right? Whether it's in a critical moment after a disaster, or in a system that needs to become more equitable over time.
So Maggie, Peter mentioned the catalytic role philanthropy can play, and certainly the prize, as the largest unrestricted prize of this type in the world, has got to be catalytic for the organizations that receive the prize. What do you think the primary benefit to these organizations is?
I think our prize laureates would say the number one benefit from receiving the prize is the seal of approval that they receive and some of the doors that it opens in terms of meetings and partnerships and advocacy even. But beyond that, as I alluded to earlier, we have had large international organizations and very small organizations receive the prize. And even the very largest of the organizations in terms of budget, who have received the prize have said that the unrestricted nature of it has been invaluable, because even if perhaps it is an organization that has a hefty budget, oftentimes a lot of that is restricted funding. And so having an unrestricted prize can allow the largest and the smallest of organizations to innovate in ways that perhaps they might not have been able to do without that flexibility.
Excellent point. Maggie, is there a standout moment for you in the past couple of years with the prize that you think really exemplifies the work?
Gosh, that's a really good question. You know, every prize laureate is my favorite prize laureate in that moment. So that's a hard one to answer. Certainly we've had just brilliant minds on our stage, but we've also have and continue to have brilliant and diverse minds that sit around that jury table every year and allow us to delve into the topic of that year's prize recipient. And so, you know, anniversaries provided time and an opportunity to look backwards, and I think they also provide an opportunity to look to the future. Now is certainly an interesting time to be thinking about the future, but really the prize is about recognizing exceptional models for tackling some of the world's most challenging problems. And so as we sit and scratch our heads thinking about the great challenges facing our world today, there are people in communities all over the world solving facets of those problems. And so I really look forward to the next 25 prize recipients that the jury decides to highlight, so that we can all learn from their approaches, their tenacity, their creativity, and really their experience for tackling what seem to be very daunting challenges and times right now.
Peter, Marshall, Maggie, thank you for your reflections on the prize and the foundation and the prize laureates' work over the years. Now we'll watch a short video about Homeboy Industries. In it, they discuss their history, what their organization does, and what winning this prize means to them. Then I'd like to invite Peter Lawhorn back to the stage for an official presentation of the award.
I've been running away from home my whole life. Running away from home into the streets, and then into juvenile hall and prison.
At first, when I walked through Homeboys, I really didn't have too much honor and respect for myself.
For a long time, you grow with that guilt, you know, that you don't deserve a better life because of the things that you've done.
Abandonment of not knowing who my father was. The abandonment of my mother when she eventually became hooked on drugs. That experience made me feel like I wasn't worthy of love.
Homeboy Industries started in 1988 to help former gang members get a new start, embrace their agency, and chart lives they wouldn't have thought possible.
When this began, we were just responding to need, and we were trying to offer a pathway out. We were helping gang members redirect their lives. That was really hard in the early years because nobody wanted to fund us, nobody wanted to support us. We couldn't find employers willing to give a chance to felons and gang members and tattooed folks. But the first 10 years were really marked by bomb threats, death threats, and hate mail. Never from gang members, because we always represented hope to them, but there were folks who couldn't wrap their arms around the notion of helping people who were so thoroughly demonized in our society.
When you are bombarded most of your life with messages that you don't matter, with messages that you're not valuable, then there's a lethal absence of hope, as Greg always says. When you then come through our doors and you meet people who look like you, who perhaps you were locked up with, and even someone that maybe you used to shoot at on the streets that now wants the best for you, that changes your experience in the world, and that changes the way in which you see yourself and your part in the world. This is why we always say that community trumps violence and community trumps gangs, because we're a community of unconditional love.
At Homeboy Industries, we are with our clients, our trainees, around 18 months. And across those 18 months, we provide a comprehensive set of services, from educational services to work on their high school degree or even junior college, also life skill classes, and then mental health services and sobriety classes and domestic violence classes. So it's a whole host of services, also all putting together within work therapy. We have social enterprise businesses, and it's within those businesses that we have our people work there, and it's really about work therapy and teach them to balance life struggles at the same time, all done in a very therapeutic community.
Yeah, people are accustomed to saying, give people a second chance. But these aren't people who've missed a chance or lost an opportunity. They just haven't ever been given any hope. It's not correct to think that, people make bad choices, because not all choices are created equal.
Homeboy Industries embodies the spirit of the Hilton Humanitarian Prize and of the work of the Hilton Foundation in its emphasis on equity, on resilience, and on dignity. I'm really pleased to announce that Homeboy Industries is the recipient of the 2020 Hilton Humanitarian Prize. This is the first time that this international prize has gone to a nonprofit based here in Los Angeles, our hometown. Homeboy's model has given a blueprint to hundreds of organizations and social entrepreneurs from Alabama to Idaho, from Guatemala to Scotland. And today, that large family is the global Homeboy network.
Where everybody here at Homeboy is a practitioner in the methodology that we've embraced. It's a powerful message from the Hilton Foundation that our efforts all these many years have really been about standing with people who have felt real rejection. It validates what we've been doing for 32 years.
This award is an acknowledgement of the hard work that the young ladies and young men that come through our doors have contributed. When I think about that, it truly touches me because I deal with the lives every day. I deal with the tears every day.
When I was growing up, I would tell my brothers, don't ever cry. Don't ever cry in front of anybody. Don't ever show weakness, because if you do, they'll take advantage of you. Here I am going down Alameda with my brother, and my brother is sobbing. He's sobbing, uncontrollably sobbing. And I look over at my brother and I go, "Hey, homie, why are you crying?" And he looks at me and he says, "Why the F do they care about us?" He couldn't wrap his head around it. But in my heart, I felt like, because you're worthy, homie. Because you're just a little boy. And you should be loved like this. People should care about you. And in that moment, in that experience, something inside of me changed forever.
Father Greg always has this saying that says, you aren't the worst thing you've ever done. I learned the positive traits about myself at Homeboys. Homeboys to me is just all that. It's me. It built me. It made me. And it gave myself a chance to see what I could be.
Homeboy gave me life, right? A life that is worth living and fighting for and can make my family proud.
When I came through the doors, it was more like, I don't belong here. I don't fit in. I don't, but this place changes you. You would never know how this place changes you until you in these walls.
And you leave here and we find a job for you beyond this place. And indeed, the world will throw at you what it will, but this time you're not going to be toppled by it, because you know the truth of who you are. You know who you are. You know that you are exactly what God had in mind when God made you, and so you become that truth. You inhabit that truth. No bullet can pierce it. No four prison walls can keep it out. Death can't touch it.
This year marks the 25th anniversary of the Hilton Humanitarian Prize, which was created as a tribute to the life of Conrad N. Hilton and the international humanitarian efforts he led. The prize shines a light on exemplary nonprofits and encourages the world to do more in terms of humanitarian action. And this year's recipient, I'm very pleased to say, is Homeboy Industries from our hometown here of Los Angeles, in honor of its exemplary work on gang rehabilitation and reentry. Homeboy Industries is a unique place. It's a place of caring, of kinship, even of tenderness for people whose lives have really been characterized by violence and by complex trauma. It's a place where former gang members can receive work therapy, mentorship, education, tattoo removal, and other vital services that help them to re-enter society and have a second chance at life. Homeboy Industries has evolved into being the largest gang intervention, rehab, and reentry program in the world. I had the honor and the opportunity last month to visit their headquarters in downtown Los Angeles, a building bustling with people even during times of COVID. I met the legendary Father Greg, whom you'll hear from later, but I also met staffers whose stories really stay with me. Jose and Van, who told me very open-heartedly and eagerly about the work that they do every day, but spliced that with stories that were harrowing about their backgrounds in gang life, in prison, separated from the people they know and love. This is an organization, if you walk through its doors, you will be incredibly impressed by what they undertake. It's our hope in awarding the prize to Homeboy Industries that the international community, far beyond Los Angeles, will come to know the important achievements of this exemplary organization and will take on some of the work that they have modeled so well, including the idea of radical kinship, which Father Greg Boyle embodies to the core. And now, Father Greg, I'd like to give a message directly to you, from my heart to yours. For 3 decades, you have been preaching inclusion and justice and the dignity and worth of every individual, no matter how society and their peers have judged them. This year, your society is catching up with you. We're thinking about equity. We're thinking about justice. We're thinking about inclusion. But you, sir, have led us here, and we honor your work today. And with that, please join me in warmly congratulating everybody at Homeboy Industries for this award, and let me hand over to Father Boyle.
It's a great honor on behalf of Homeboy Industries to receive this remarkable recognition from the Conrad Hilton Foundation. We are all humbled and heartened by this recognition. Both the Hilton Foundation and Homeboy Industries wants to imagine something different in the world, and so we are committed together to create a community of kinship such that God, in fact, might recognize it. The poet Wallace Stevens says, we live in the description of the place, but not in the place itself. And the Hilton Foundation and Homeboy Industries, both, we want to hold out for the place itself. The great John Lewis says that we all live in the same house, which is the place itself. He doesn't say, well, some people live on the 3rd floor and some are in the basement. He says, no, we all live in the same house. He doesn't say one day we might. No, he says straight out, we all live in the same house. And so together we try to imagine a circle of compassion, and then we imagine nobody standing outside that circle. Together, we try to dismantle the barriers that exclude, so we stand at the margins so that they will get erased. And we stand with the poor and the powerless and the voiceless. We stand with those whose dignity has been denied and those whose burdens are more than they can bear. We stand with the easily despised and the readily left out. We stand with the demonized so that the demonizing will stop, and with the disposable so that the day will come when we stop throwing people away. We want to create a community of connection and kinship where we obliterate once and for all the illusion that we are separate. We believe with Mother Teresa that the diagnosis is that the world has forgotten that we belong to each other. So the Hilton Foundation and Homeboy Industries wants to stand against forgetting that. So thousands of men and women walk through our doors at Homeboy Industries, and this place has created over 300 programs in the world that are modeled on our methodology. So homies and homegirls walk through our doors barricaded behind a wall of shame and disgrace, and we believe here that only tenderness can scale that wall. They come here with what psychologists would call a disorganized attachment. Mom was frightening or frightened, and you can't really calm yourself down if you've never been soothed. And so we create a safe place where the traumatized can feel cherished and then find their way to the joy there is in cherishing themselves and others. Jesus holds out our own longing, which is that you may be one, that there is no us and them, there's just us. Here, enemies and rival gang members work side by side with each other, and I remember many years ago, there was a homie who was 19, we all called him Youngster, and I thought he was ready to begin work, so I take him to our Homeboy Silkscreen factory, which has been around for like 27 years. Thousands of gang members have worked there over these years. We do high quality work, reasonably priced. We UPS to your city, I'm just saying. And so I bring this guy in there, Youngster, and I watch him shake hands with some 30 workers, and half of them are easily rivals or enemies. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's great. And then he gets to this one guy named Puppet, and when the two of them are in each other's vicinity, they stare at their shoes, they mumble something, they don't shake hands. Well, I know they're enemies because I know what gangs they're from, but he just shook hands with a whole bunch of rivals. But I sense in the moment that this is a personal beef, and I find out later that this is some hatred that they can't get past. And so I sense that at the moment, and I say, look, you know, if you guys can't hang working with each other, let me know. I got a bunch of people who want this job, and they don't say a word. Well, 6 months later, a Puppet leaves his home to walk to a corner store some distance from his house, and he buys something, but on his way home, for some reason, he decides to take a shortcut, and he dodges into an alley. And because he took this detour, suddenly, unexpectedly, he's surrounded by 10 members of a rival gang, 10 against 1, and they beat him badly. And he falls to the ground, and while he's lying there, these guys just won't stop kicking his head until he's lifeless. And somebody finds his body and takes him to White Memorial Hospital, where he's declared effectively brain dead. But it's the policy there to keep him connected to machines for 48 hours so that you have 2 full days of what they call a flat read, where there is no brain activity at all, and then the doctors can make the official pronouncement. I was in St. Louis, I was giving a talk. I flew home immediately. I've seen a lot of horrible things in my life, but nothing to compare to the sight of this young man with his head swollen many times its size. It was horrifying. You could barely train your eyes on him. And so at the end of the 48 hours, I said a blessing prayer. I anointed his forehead with oil. We disconnected, and a week later I buried him. But in the first 24 hours, I'm alone in my office. It's 8:30 at night, and the phone rings, and it's Youngster, Puppet's co-worker from the Silkscreen factory. Hey, he says, that's messed up about what happened to Puppet. And I said, yeah, it is. And then he said with a certain kind of eagerness even, Is there anything I can do? Can I give him my blood? And we both fall silent under the weight of it, until finally he breaks the silence, choking back his tears, and he says with great deliberation, "He was not my enemy. He was my friend. We worked together." Now, can I say that always happens at Homeboy Industries? Yes. Any exceptions? No. I can't think of a single one. And yet it shouldn't surprise us that God's own dream come true for us, that we be one, just happens to be our own deepest longing for ourselves. We all live in the same house, and so we stand against forgetting that we belong to each other. For the moment, we live in the description of the place, but we all hold out for the place itself. On behalf of Homeboy Industries, thank you very much.
Thank you, Father Greg. What a remarkable story. I reported on Homeboy Industries so long ago when it was just a bakery, and what an honor, what a privilege to be able to watch them grow and thrive and improve so many lives. I know you've been receiving many congratulations since this award was announced, and there are just a few people who wanted to add their thoughts.
Hi, I'm Dr. Bob Ross, President and CEO of the California Endowment. On behalf of our board and our staff at the California Endowment, we want to offer the heartiest of congratulations to Homeboy Industries, to Father Greg Boyle, to Tom Vazo and the board of directors, as well as the entire incredible staff at Homeboy Industries for being winners of this year's Hilton Humanitarian Prize. This is a richly, richly deserved honor, and especially at this time in our nation's history. This nation has been beset and troubled by divisiveness and exclusion, particularly in this year. And no one stands better for the values of kinship, of inclusion, of family, and the spirit of community than Homeboy Industries. You guys earned this. We love you for it. Thank you for the work that you do. And congratulations for winning that prize.
Hi, I'm Jane Fonda, and I'm on the board of Homeboy Industries because Homeboy provides the world with the best working model for dealing with some of our most profound social issues, racial and class divisions, that if not solved, will ultimately destroy us. Homeboy Industries, in my opinion, isn't just an organization. It's a method of healing. It's a trampoline that allows the most marginalized to leap and soar over the barriers that violence, neglect, and racism have erected around them. Homeboy teaches us all how to heal and connect through kinship, through standing together, erasing margins, and seeing people for their whole, deepest selves. For these reasons and so much more, I want to congratulate Homeboy Industries on receiving the 2020 Hilton Humanitarian Prize. And I also want to congratulate the Hilton Foundation for your wisdom in making such a perfect choice of awardee. Thank you.
So well deserved. In just a few moments, we're going to hear from some incredible individuals who work at Homeboy Industries. First, though, I want to introduce Raj Kumar, President and Editor-in-Chief at DevEx. As a media platform, DevEx is dedicated to ensuring global development efforts do more good for more people through their news and analysis of the industry. And they're the media partner for this prize ceremony and the conversation series on the future of humanitarian action. Now, Raj will be moderating the conversation, and joining him on the stage is the CEO of Homeboy, Thomas Vazzo, Shirley Torres, Chief Program Officer, and Jose Arellano, Co-Director of Case Management and Navigation, to discuss their experiences and work as a humanitarian organization and what's next for their organization. Raj, over to you.
Thank you, Soledad. It is fantastic to be a part of this celebration today, to bring you these three incredible people who are at the heart of Homeboy. We've got Thomas Vazzo, who's the CEO of Homeboy Industries, Shirley Torres, the Chief Program Officer at Homeboy Industries, and Jose Arellano, who's the Co-Director of Case Management and Navigation at Homeboy Industries. Thanks to all three of you for being a part of this.
Thank you for having us.
I got to ask you, Shirley, you've been at Homeboy for 15 years now, and you've had so many important roles there, worked with so many people. The pictures behind you, I think, remind you of some of the people who've come through your doors. What does it mean to you to win this prize today, to hear this celebration for you today after all these years at Homeboy Industries?
It's, first of all, just humbled by being recognized and awarded for our work. And mostly for me, it's about honoring the courage and the heroes that walk through the door, folks who have experienced things that most of us could not survive, folks that when they get to come in and come into the sanctuary of Homeboy and connect with us, we peel back the layers and listen to them, we know that they're miracles. And so I think for me, this humanitarian award is really about celebrating the men and women who have, in so many ways, continued to have the courage to keep getting up, even after they've fallen, and who continue to be hungry for a better life. And we're just blessed to be at the crossroads to receive them, to honor their resiliency, and to help them on their pathway to a better life.
Yeah, so much of what I hear about Homeboy and the language you're using, the language that Father Greg used, isn't necessarily the business language you might think when you hear something like industries. And I know, and we'll talk in a minute about the great social enterprise work you do, we hear language like really treating people like you want to be treated, about equality and respect. Father Greg talks about no one being disposable. What does that mean for you, Jose, given your work trying to manage the cases, to navigate people through the process as they re-enter the workforce coming out of prison? What's your take on what this language means, what the culture of Homeboy Industries really is?
So like Shirley was saying, about honoring people's lives, I think what happens here more than anything that takes place is that we see people as if we're seeing them for the very first time. And we see people like by seeing the truth about their lives. And the truth about their lives is that they're worthy and they matter and they're important, no matter what they've been through or what they've done. And I think by us creating a space where that can take place, by us doing that and seeing that in others, we see that in ourselves, and we create, a better world by doing so. So for me, the culture of Homeboys is we offer a bunch of different resources, but above everything, what we offer here is a space where people can be seen for the very first time, without, the things they've done or without the things they've been through. And for me, that's what happened to me here. And I think when I started to see that, because I seen myself in a certain light once before, and like here being at Homeboys and having Father G tell me that I was worthy or that I mattered or that I was important, and having Shirley Torres tell me that I was somebody, it made me start to realize that I was somebody and that I did matter and that I was important. And my life began to shift because of that. And when that happened to me, I unconsciously wanted to create a space so that can happen to others. And I think it's like when we see the worth in others, we really are seeing our own worth, because we belong to each other.
Tom, Homeboy Industries was a social enterprise, I think, before people even knew what that term meant. And you were bringing this ethos and this culture we've heard from Shirley and Jose to not just serve others, but to make them part of serving themselves and helping themselves. To tell us more about how this social enterprise model works for you at Homeboy.
It certainly works much different now than it worked early in those first years when Greg opened that first social enterprise, the Homeboy Bakery. But just as both Shirley and Jose has mentioned, what we're really about is helping people heal. And our secret sauce is that we love people, we don't judge them, and we give them their first chance in life. And our businesses are an important component of making all that play out, in that, they get a chance to have a first job, a good job, a job that's worthy, a job that has dignity to it. And they work on themselves at the same time. So what's so innovative of what Father Greg started all those years ago and we're still doing today is that, with jobs, but really about healing people, combining all that together to enable someone to move their life forward. And it really is very much of an innovative concept of seeing people that they are worthy and leaning into the goodness that everybody has in themselves and allowing them to kind of blossom and to grow through that in one organization along the way. So that's what our social enterprises mean to us. You're right, we use the word industries, but we're really a human services organization that help people. In that we run businesses that kind of is another tool in our toolkit to help people move their life forward.
For me, I think the language you're all using is so inspirational, in part because it's such a contrast to the division and the challenges that we see in America and around the world today. You've got the climate changing, you've got this pandemic that's one of the reasons we're all doing this virtually. You've got massive inequality happening around the world where you're based in Los Angeles, homelessness, and in so many other communities. When you look at all those challenges, all those problems, where do you think Homeboy Industries and what you do and what you have to offer, your message, where does it sort of fit in? Maybe Shirley, I can start with you.
I believe really that we're a beacon of hope for the city of Los Angeles, for the nation, for the world. Those issues that you've raised are not new to Los Angeles. We know that 30 years ago, Homeboy Industry started with a prayer during the Decade of Death, because we know that that it was impossible for us to incarcerate our way out of injustices, and that gang membership was really a symptom of the lethal absence of hope that young people were facing in their own homes and in communities that were essentially demonizing. And in my work experience here, I definitely learned firsthand early on that there was definitely systemic issues around this idea that we have to protect the good kids from the bad kids. And what Homeboy and what I think we stand for is the idea is that these are all our kids, and that there's no such thing, and that all of us have, if given the opportunity, have the opportunity to rebuild and to help and to really allow people to feel their worth and re-identify with the world, who folks are. And so I think for us, these issues, again, for 32 years, we've been at the crossroads of life and death. And I think that we know that the vision still has its day. We know that the day will come where we're committed to change the outcomes, specifically for young boys of color who are at the highest risk of being incarcerated, joining gangs, and dying.
Jose, I was reading in your bio that as a young kid, you were in the Gifted and Talented program. You grew up right in Los Angeles, but then your life took a different turn. And you were saying earlier that you can understand, you bring the expertise to your work of having lived through this yourself. What is it like for people watching this who might not be familiar with Los Angeles? They might not really understand what gang culture is, how big this issue really is for young men of color and others. How can you describe maybe the scale of this challenge and what it's like to go through it as you have yourself?
Yeah, so for me, just looking back as a child, as a kid, I didn't want to be a gang member. That was the furthest thing from my desires in life. But my circumstances were my circumstances. And growing up, my mother was a gang member. I didn't know who my father was. All my uncles, all my male role models were all gang members. My cousins, we were all from the same gang. But growing up, I was in the GATE program, Gifted and Talented Education. I was in a marching band. I played the trumpet, and I loved school because I hated being at home. I just didn't like being at home because of everything that home was, which was, alcoholism and drug abuse and a lot of violence. And, now that I look back, mental illness, and there was nobody coming to save us from that. So, you know, I would go to school, I would get myself ready for school, go to school, and I would also after school I would just hang out in the streets because I just hated being at home. But as you know, things get progressively worse, and you know, in houses like that, and my mother, you know, got addicted to drugs. We got a lot more poor. Our lights were getting turned off. We were getting evicted. We were moving a lot, and my mom was addicted to methamphetamine at the time, and my house was just a really negative place to be. So I would always try to be somewhere else but home. But I think looking back at my circumstances and looking back at so many other circumstances and people that we work with now, and now we have a youth program and seeing people's circumstances, I really think that some of these stories are inevitable. And because these circumstances are so dire, and so depressing and so hopeless, we're gonna have a lot more, like Shirley was saying, you know, young male boys of color that join gangs, or that, you know, end up in a hopeless state and end up committing crimes. So just hearing like Tom and Shirley talk about inclusion, and what really began to reshape like myself and how I see things was being a part of this. Like not only like getting the help and services here, but also like having a stake in it, you know, also having a seat at the table, you know, being a part of the greatness that happens here. It gave me a place and a purpose. You know, it gave me a place to heal, but it also gave me a purpose to live and to invite others into that type of life. So, you know, being here is the honor of my life. It truly is.
Well, it's a real honor to have you in this discussion today, Jose. Tom, I want to turn to you because Jose and Shirley have both pointed out that there isn't one simple solution to these kinds of systemic problems. You can't just go in and educate your way out or incarcerate your way out. You've got to do this other kind of hard work, building a community. You know, this is something I think is pretty unique to Homeboy Industries. And maybe it's hard to even communicate when you're talking to government agencies or foundations that want to fund you. How do you describe this approach that you're taking, and why is this the right way instead of doing things like educating or trying to incarcerate your way out of the challenges that we just heard?
Sure, and it's about radical kinship is what we also say when we talk to people. And so what we describe to, you know, funders or government agencies is that it's a holistic approach. It's about helping people heal. It's also giving them those skill sets. You know, I come out of the business world, and so in a crude way of business verbiage, it's like for folks that society think are unemployable, we enable them to become employable. And really what's behind that is we help them heal and help them become resilient and help them see their goodness, and then make sure their families are successful as well. And so the way we try to describe it is it takes a full effort. It takes an effort of people who sort of walked in that lifestyle, who know how to mentor and get people out of, men and women out of gang life and life of crime. It takes the professionals of mental health therapists and doctors and educators to kind of fill in what they didn't have for the rest of their life. It takes kind of the working businesses of here's how you work, here's how you engage customers, here's how you move forward. So it's that completeness that takes place, and it takes place over a long period of time. People are with us for around 18 months. And so transformation doesn't happen overnight. And that's one of the big messages we try to get across.
These are people who are coming out of prison or coming out of a gang. Is that right? Your reentry program, when you talk about 18 months?
That's right. That's right. When they come into our program at Homeboy, and you know, people walk through our doors, and they know they want to get out of that gang lifestyle. They don't know how. We help them, and we help them transform their lives into something that's much better.
You know, one of the things I noticed on your website is this idea of tattoo removal. I've seen, Shirley, in some of your work, this is something you worked on in the past. Maybe you can explain it for those who aren't as familiar with gangs and with why this matters. Why is this something that you offer as a service in your community? Why is it important?
As Tom has described, I think it takes a complete, and Jose has described, we offer every resource imaginable of what it takes to transform your life. And so everything here is about doses. There's not one prescription. Every single service imaginable, whether it's tattoo removal, employment services, case management, mental health, everything we offer here under one roof has really been born out of one of our folks who have said, this is what I need to transform our lives. And so for us, whether it's tattoo removal or again, one-on-one peer mentorship of someone who needs to be guided and how to really move into their healing, it really is been born out of that, and it's an option. And our population hasn't always had an option. They haven't had an exit ramp off the revolving door of incarceration and violence. And so when they come through the doors, our team understands that folks have been operating from fear, that the tattoos and the characters that they've developed have really helped them survive the streets and that life. And that's very real. And that they need to, in some ways, to teach us about that. And part of this sanctuary that we offer and this space that we refer to is really about offering folks an option and a safety that they haven't been afforded in their lives.
Let me go back to you for a second, Tom, because this idea of investing in one person at a time, it's so powerful.
Right.
But you can see people who are watching this who might say, but how do we scale this? You know, we've got problems in my community and in my country. And this sounds like a great local solution. How do you as a business person coming into this and seeing the tremendous need in your community, but much broader than that, how do you think about scaling a model of kinship, a model that sees the other person and focuses on their individual needs? How can that actually solve all the big problems in the world today?
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is, you're getting a business guy giving you this answer is, it doesn't take money, essentially. It takes the mindset shift. You know, what Father Greg started all these years ago was, and Shirley mentioned and Jose mentioned, is seeing the individual. It's, as Greg would say, moving to the margins to be with people on the margins, and not just to be on the margins and tell the people on the margins, the poor, the demonized, how to change their life, but to be in relationship with them. And so fundamentally what works at Homeboy is that people forming relationships with each other, and that then moves their life forward. And so that doesn't take money. That just takes a mindset shift. It doesn't. So if there's another organization out there and they think they need to build all these programs and they bring all these volunteers in and all these volunteers will tell these young men how to change their life, that's not going to work. What's going to work is actually form a relationship with people who are in need, and that moves it forward. And now, without a doubt, you need that money for the mental health therapies, tattoo removal, the classes. You know, our society has enough money out there to do that. It's a mindset shift that how do you kind of collectively move that forward and treat people as individuals.
And that may be a lot harder than getting the business model. You know,
totally.
taking this idea of us and them and
Right.
really just blowing that up and saying, no, we're really in this together.
Right. You got to create a culture where people can thrive. It's not about a meritocracy. It's not about earning their way forward. Create a culture where they can thrive, and achievements will happen, and people will change.
Jose, I see you nodding along.
Yeah, just hearing both of them speak about who we are. I would have never imagined the life that I have today if it wasn't for this place. From tattoo removal, I'll just give you that. I used to have my gang on me 9 times, tattooed on me 9 times. You can't even see it anymore. I've had so much tattoo removal. And that's a symbol of somebody chasing death. It wasn't, I didn't get tatted up to look cool. I got tatted up because I was so hopeless. I wanted other gang members to see my tattoo so they can potentially shoot me and kill me. And we were chasing death, right? In our communities, we're chasing death, and we're going to prison because we're so hopeless and committing crime and, you know, getting all tatted up. You see the individuals with tattoos on their face, and we at Homeboys know that that's a cry for help. We know that individuals chasing death. And then we get to see the other side of that coin when they come through the doors, like myself, who doesn't have any of that no more, because now I'm chasing life. And as I'm chasing life, I want to invite as many others from our community to chase life and to thrive, as Tom was saying. You know, and I think us going through everything in society right now, to Tom's point, is it's not about just helping people. It's about being with people. You know, it's about knowing people and them knowing you.
You know, I noticed on your website that I think it's 80% of the people you serve don't have a stable place to call home, which has got to be particularly tough during a pandemic when we're all told to stay at home. What has it been like for your community, and what are your plans going forward to try to address that as an organization? Maybe I can go to you on this, Shirley.
I mean, I think this is the reason why we have kept hope alive during the pandemic and kept our doors open. We've been very blessed to have support, donor support, and men and women on the front lines who know what's at stake for folks that don't have a home, and they've rolled up their sleeves to strategically work with other partners, sober livings and places, so that we're able to afford these safety for folks. We understand at Homeboy that if people don't know where they're going to lay their head and how they're going to eat, then we don't have a chance to help them move out of survivor brain. That their backs are against the wall and they are so busy scanning the room for danger and how they're going to live the next day that healing then becomes impossible. Then rebuilding your life then becomes impossible. And so our teams have rolled up their sleeves to keep our doors open. We know that folks are being released at high numbers from different detention facilities during this pandemic, but we've been able to mobilize and to find those resources for our community right now.
And Tom, you've got some big plans around this. Tell us where you're going to take Homeboy Industries to try to address this particular issue of people needing a stable place to call home.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, you know, what Father Greg figured out, and it seems so obvious, but he figured out this over 30 years ago, was to be able to get somebody to come out of gang life, you got to get them enough money so they can provide for themselves food and shelter. Because if you're not getting them money, then they're going to be running with the gang to find that money, right? And so fast forward all these years later, you know, the core part of what our Homeboy program is we do compensate our folks to be with us all day long. So we want to get them enough money so they can buy food for themselves and they have shelter. Problem in our community though, shelter costs, you know, rent is very high. We want to get our folks out of their neighborhoods, out of their gang neighborhoods so they can fully thrive along the way. So one of our visions going forward is we want to build transitional housing. We, on a block just south of us here in Los Angeles, we have plans to build out a 148 bed facility that would provide transitional housing. So while someone's in our program for those 18 months, they can have a safe and clean, sober living type place to live. We know what it takes to serve gang members along the way, and now we want to provide shelter for them as well.
And let me ask Shirley and Jose, as we close out our conversation today, you know, people watching this, they're probably, most of them sitting at home in the middle of this pandemic. They're looking at the news and seeing a country, a world divided in many ways, so many challenges that are out there. You're working in some cases with people who have much greater challenges than any of us, and yet you're finding hope in this. What gives you hope that the future, that the work that you do can actually lead to this future we all want to see?
For me, it's being here every day, and even through this pandemic. You know, you guys spoke a little bit about the circumstances of this particular population, and just seeing people, you know, our staff and our leadership and Father G himself be able to return and open our doors up to the capacity that we're open inspires the heck out of me. And it shows what's possible, you know, because this particular population, you know, when they asked us all to stay at home, some of them didn't have homes, you know, and some of them, the homes that they did have were unsafe to even be at, the communities they lived in. And so for our staff and our leadership and Father G himself, and for us to be able to be here and open our doors and to see those same individuals that are in hopeless environments and some of them in hopeless states come through these doors every day to receive services, to work on our maintenance crews, to keep this building clean with honor and integrity. That inspires the heck out of me, and it gives me hope.
Shirley, you grew up in this community. You've seen it change over the years. You know these challenges really personally, really well. You got these pictures behind you of people who've come through your doors. What gives you hope?
For me, people give me hope. I think all of us hold a piece, and there's the slogan of none of us are well until all of us are well, and that's never been more true. I think there's an exquisite mutuality and a palpable love at Homeboy. But everyone, as long as you have a pulse, you have the opportunity to change the way people feel, to change the way people are seen. And one of the things that this community has taught me is that money is not the only currency, and that if we minimize distance, if we're connected, if we see each other, then together we have the opportunity to change the dynamics and build healthy communities and a healthy world. And I think Homeboy is a good example of that.
So Tom, as we wrap up today, and as you think about this future, what gives you hope?
One of the things that gives me hope and motivates me and inspires me is the men and women at Homeboy who have lived that lifestyle and have changed their lives. And now they become leaders. So Jose is one of our leaders. And we have so many people like Jose in our organization who have stepped forward and actually are running the organization. So that for us, our next 25 years is Homeboys, or we want Homeboys running Homeboys. And that kind of tells you a lot that when you invest in folks, create a thriving organization, a thriving culture, people can grow and make their life dreams come true and then help that next generation. That's what inspires me and gives me hope.
For Thomas Vaso, Shirley Torres, Jose Arellano, it is inspiring to listen to your expertise and the passion that you bring to this work. And on behalf of everybody who's watching this from around the world, congratulations on winning the Hilton Humanitarian Prize in this important 25th anniversary of the prize. You've given us all a lot to think about and some marching orders for action that we all need to take. Thank you. And back to you, Soledad.
Thank you, Raj and Tom and Shirley and Jose for your powerful insights. And also, I want to say a big thank you to the Hilton Foundation for your leadership and for using this prize as an opportunity to highlight the importance of humanitarian work globally. These stories are so critically important, and frequently they're not told enough or shared enough or highlighted enough. So I am thrilled to be able to help elevate the Homeboy Industries narrative, all of its success, and also to be part of recognizing the people who do so much for so many. A big thank you also to the prize jury for their work and for choosing Homeboy Industries for this prestigious award. It has been a packed day with so many good thoughts and reflections, and I'd like to invite you to join us and share your thoughts or your congratulations to Homeboy on social media. Be sure to use the hashtag Hilton Prize. And if you're interested in engaging with the Hilton Foundation, head on over to hiltonfoundation.org. And finally, a big congratulations to Homeboy Industries for all of their achievements and work on these essential issues. If you want to learn more about Homeboy Industries, go to homeboyindustries.org. On behalf of the Conrad and Hilton Foundation and Homeboy Industries, I want to thank you for joining us today. Stay tuned to hear from a few more Homeboy supporters you might recognize.
I want to extend my heartfelt congratulations to Homeboy Industries and its founder, Father Greg Boyle, upon receiving the Conrad Hilton Humanitarian Prize of 2020. I'm proud to support this incredible organization and the invaluable life-saving work that they've been doing for the past 30 years. Congratulations again, and here's to 30 more.
Felicitaciones to all of my homeboys and homegirls. Congratulations to Homeboy Industries on this outstanding recognition of your work. And our sincere appreciation to the Hilton Foundation for 25 years for this prize and your commitment to the community.
It's Monica and Phil Rosenthal congratulating Homeboy Industries and the Hilton Humanitarian Prize on its 25th anniversary. And Phil, I have a question for you. What does writing the next chapter of humanitarian action mean to you?
Oh, I think,
Yeah, take it.
I think it means everything that Homeboy does. Caring for the community, caring for each other, and putting something great out into the world.
I've seen firsthand what Homeboy Industries does to bring hope and love into the lives of some of the most marginalized people in our society, which makes me so happy to congratulate them on receiving the Conrad N. Hilton Humanitarian Prize.
Once you walk through the Homeboy Industry headquarters, you're immediately swept up in this feeling of hope and, of course, love and acceptance. And I feel like these themes couldn't be more important for the tumultuous times we're living through right now, and it's how we can all strive to achieve our humanitarian work. And of course, I feel like we could really learn a lesson or two from the homegirls and the homeboys, and of course, Father Greg.
It is so important
to incorporate hope and love into the work that we do and how we lead our lives and serve as examples to younger generations. That is why it is so great that Homeboy Industries, an organization founded by the extraordinary, incredible Father Greg Boyle, that has been a beacon of hope in LA and beyond for over 30 years, has been recognized this year as the Hilton Humanitarian Prize laureate.
Congratulations to Homeboy Industries on this outstanding recognition of your work, and congrats to the Hilton Foundation on 25 years of the prize.